The harsh glare of stage lights cut through my vision as I scanned the expanse of faces before me. My fingers closed around the smooth surface of the National Journalism Award, its weight both thrilling and oddly empty in my hands. The audience erupted into cheers, applause echoing around the hall, yet my gaze kept drifting to the 4 empty seats at the very front, seats reserved for my family. Their absence resonated louder than any ovation could. My phone buzzed against my palm. A notification appeared, a photo tagged by my cousin Emma. Despite the distance and tension that had grown since my family relocated, she had always kept a digital thread connecting us, even when my parents discouraged it. I opened it and felt the room spin. There they were, my mother, father, and brother Noah, smiling under a bright sun on a beach, drinks raised in a carefree toast. The timestamp read, 2 hours ago, with the caption, "Perfect family vacation day." They hadn't forgotten. They had consciously chosen to leave me behind. I'm Riley, 29, an investigative journalist, and this is the account of uncovering the long-buried truths my family tried to hide, and forcing them to confront what they had done. The metal in my grasp suddenly felt hollow. For the past year and a half, I had plunged into the depths of corruption in municipal housing contracts, sacrificing nights, weekends, and personal safety, chasing leads while colleagues returned home to family dinners. I endured threats, vandalism, even temporary relocations, all for moments like this. Yet the very people I expected to be present at the pinnacle of my career were absent. My speech was short, practiced, and rehearsed, each word scraping my throat like grit. Once off stage, a coordinator approached with a glass of champagne. "This was for you," she said. "Congratulations." I took the glass, noting a business card tucked beneath it. No name, just an address on Oakwood Drive with the message, "The reason your family didn't attend." The address was unmistakable, our former home, abandoned abruptly when I was 12. Across the room, a tall man in a tailored suit observed me, eyes locked onto mine. When he acknowledged me with a subtle nod, he vanished into the crowd. I recognized him from city council meetings during my investigation, always on the fringes. My phone buzzed again, my mother calling. I silenced it, slipping the card into my clutch. Outside, the night air was cool against my skin, my mind racing while the untouched champagne glass remained in hand. Suddenly, my phone erupted with notifications. Dad, Mom, Noah, all trying to reach me after weeks of sporadic contact. The contrast between their sudden attention and their earlier absence was jarring. A black SUV idled nearby, its window lowered just enough to reveal the same man from the hall. "The truth won't wait, Miss Parker," he said, "but your family is already scrambling to control it." Moments later, a text from Noah lit my screen. "Don't go to the old house. Whatever they're telling you is false." How had he learned about the house? The realization hit me. They had been approached with the same information, now attempting to rewrite the story in their favor. The man introduced himself, Jacob Mercer, Wellington Development Security Specialist for 17 years. "I've been keeping tabs on your family on their behalf," he said, extending a hand holding a small brass key. "Your parents have kept more than just memories locked away there. Question their motives. They'll claim it's about protection. Decide for yourself what they're really shielding." Every instinct urged me to step back, call my family, retreat, but the memory of those vacant front row seats and the cheerful beach photo burned in my mind. I took the key. As his SUV disappeared into the night, I returned to my car, discovering a manila envelope waiting on the passenger seat. I remembered leaving my window slightly open in the garage, a careless oversight Jacob had evidently exploited. Inside lay a detailed floor plan of our old home, one upstairs bedroom circled in red, accompanied by a single photograph. My family gathered around a dining table, faces taut with fear. In the reflection behind them stood the same man who had handed me the key moments before. My phone rang yet again. This time I answered. "Riley, where are you?" Dad's voice was taut, controlled, and carried an urgency that left no room for pretense. The pieces were falling into place, but the full story, the secrets my family had buried, the truths they had avoided confronting, was still out there waiting. And I was the one who would finally uncover them. A restless tension thrummed under my skin, a current of unease I couldn't shake. I forced myself to speak, my words clipped and controlled. "Where were you tonight?" That's not what matters, he replied, voice low, almost pleading. Not what matters? I echoed, disbelief sharpening my tone. Tonight was monumental. Everything I've worked for. And you're off on some beach, posing for family pictures? Listen carefully, he hissed, voice hardening abruptly. Did anyone approach you? Hand you anything? I gripped the brass key in my hand so tightly my knuckles whitened. No, I spat, certainty cutting through the tension. You're lying. Riley, whatever they said, whatever they gave you, it's all manipulation. They're using you to reach me. The words left my mouth before I could stop them. I couldn't believe the irony of it, the bitter truth that hit harder than I expected. That's rich, coming from the man who didn't even show up when his daughter received a national award. I said, voice trembling with a mix of rage and hurt. This isn't about your award, he snapped, then immediately softened, a plea threading through his words. Please. Just come home. I can explain everything. I'll find the answers, I said, voice tight. But not from you. I ended the call and started the car, the engine a low hum that mirrored the storm inside me. Driving through the streets of my childhood, the world seemed to fold in on itself, dragging me back in time. We had left suddenly years ago, Dad claiming a sudden job transfer, Mom extolling the virtues of better schools. I never questioned it, never until now. But every turn brought me closer to truths I hadn't dared face. The house appeared smaller than in my memory, the paint cracked and peeling, the yard swallowed by weeds. Yet one window glowed, warm and inviting, a solitary sentinel against the shadows. Jacob had to be there first, preparing, manipulating. He knew Wellington's security systems inside out, knew how to enter undetected. I slid the key into the lock. It fit as though it had always belonged there. Inside, the air smelled of stale dust with a metallic bite that made me gag. The furniture was gone, leaving only ghostly outlines of where life had been. Scuff marks on the hardwood floors whispered of the past, of hurried footsteps and laughter now long vanished. My fingers traced the faded rectangles on the wall, where family photographs once captured moments now lost. In the kitchen, under the harsh glare of a desk lamp, papers were strewn like a trail of breadcrumbs. Property deeds, bank statements, legal files, all stamped with my father's signature. One document, however, froze me in place, a trust agreement naming me as the sole owner of the house, dated 3 days after our sudden departure. I had been the legal owner since I was 12, shielded from danger by a secret my father had carried alone. A creak above drew my gaze upward. My heartbeat quickened as I climbed the stairs, each step groaning under my weight. At the end of the hallway, a door stood ajar, light spilling from within. I pushed it open, and my breath caught. The room was almost empty, save for a wooden trunk against the far wall. But the walls, oh the walls, were covered in a chaotic tapestry of newspaper clippings, photographs and notes, linked with red string. A timeline of my life, my achievements, my investigation, woven with the shadowy presence of a man constantly observing my family over the years. You've got powerful connections, a voice said behind me, calm but laden with a weight that made my blood run cold. I whirled. Jacob Mercer stood there, casual, confident, as though he had stepped out of the shadows. Who are you? I demanded. Why are you helping me now, after years of watching, of spying on my family? I was hired to protect your father's interests at Wellington Development, he admitted, stepping further into the room. Your father's involvement with them goes back 17 years. When irregularities appeared in their financial records, he had a choice. Take the blame or cover it up. He chose the latter. My mind raced. That's impossible. My father's an insurance man. Now he is, Jacob said quietly, but back then he was Wellington's financial advisor. I was brought in to monitor your family, ensure his compliance. And now? I asked, the pieces locking into place like a cruel puzzle. Why turn against them for me? My conscience wouldn't let me sit by any longer, Jacob confessed, voice heavy with regret. Watching you dig into the same people your father protected, it woke something in me. I couldn't ignore it. The trunk beckoned, its lock yielding easily to my hand. Inside, stacks of financial ledgers, documents chronicling secret transactions, and correspondence detailing years of hidden manipulation lay neatly arranged. Each paper, each record, told a story of betrayal, of power wielded silently and mercilessly, a shadow network reaching into every corner of our lives. I stared, breath shallow, heart hammering. Every decision, every move, every hidden truth now stretched before me, a tangled web I had only begun to understand. And in that moment, I knew the battle was just beginning. The game had always been rigged, but now I held the pieces, and I was ready to play. The stack of folders in front of me made my stomach turn. Each one bore my father's signature, alongside meticulously logged security recordings, hours of intercepted conversations, and a separate file labeled simply Riley, stuffed with surveillance images spanning years. Photos of me at school events, graduation ceremonies, even outside my apartment, every moment cataloged. "They've been watching me," I whispered, bile rising in my throat. Jacob leaned back, expression tense. "Your father made an arrangement," he said quietly. "They promised to leave you alone, as long as he kept handling certain financial matters. But once your investigation started gaining traction, Wellington's executives panicked. They made him remind your parents to reprioritize." I clenched my fists, fury bubbling. "That's why they weren't at my ceremony. They chose them over me again." My phone vibrated in my pocket. A text from Noah. "They're coming to the house. Leave now." Noah must have overheard our parents' frantic conversation after Dad tracked my location through our family app. I turned to Jacob. "Why are you helping me?" "I was assigned to monitor your family after your move," he admitted. "I saw how it affected you, the confusion, the hurt, and I saw what your father became, living under their thumb. I've been compiling evidence for years, waiting for the right person to take it all down." He handed me a flash drive. "Everything they've done, including your father's original statement, before he backed out. It's all here." A car's headlights cut through the darkness, pulling into the driveway. "What will you do?" Jacob asked. I thought about those empty seats at every important moment, the years I spent believing my family didn't care. I thought about the investigation I'd poured myself into for 18 months, never realizing my own father was entangled in it all. "I'll do what I've always done," I said, stuffing the flash drive and documents into my bag. "Follow the truth wherever it leads." The front door burst open. My mother's face was pale with fear, my father's jaw tight with restrained anger. They had driven 2 hours from their beach retreat, racing to my location after tracking my phone. "Riley, stop." Dad barked. "You don't understand what you're doing." "I understand perfectly," I said, trying to sound calmer than I felt. "You sold your integrity to Wellington Development years ago. When I began digging into them, you protected them instead of warning me." Color drained from his face. "It was to protect you," he whispered. "To let you walk into this investigation safely." "That's not protection," I said, voice rising. "It's cowardice. You had no idea what they're capable of." "I do," I added, lifting the flash drive. "It's my job to know. And now I have everything I need to finish the story, including your role in it." My mother stepped forward, tears streaming. "Riley, please. This will destroy our family." "You already did years ago," I said steadily, moving toward the door. "When you chose that beach over my award ceremony. Now my article runs in 3 days. You have until then to decide whether to tell the truth about what happened 17 years ago." Dad's voice trembled. "If you publish this, we lose everything." I paused at the threshold, the cool night air brushing my face. "I already did. But this time I'm reclaiming it." 3 days later, my follow-up article went live. Regulatory oversight under fire as whistleblower reveals corruption scandal. The whistleblower? My father, who spent 12 hours in my editor's office recounting every bribe, every cover-up, every payoff he'd been part of for 17 years. The investigation widened to include 3 city officials and Wellington Development CEO. My father's cooperation in exchange for immunity meant our family lost almost everything. Our home in the upscale neighborhood, the vacation property, even the retirement fund built on fraudulent contracts and kickbacks that had cost the city millions. I stood in our empty old house, now mine again, watching Jacob supervise the removal of the surveillance equipment that had monitored us for years. After giving testimony, he received limited immunity, but now the executives who had controlled our lives faced federal charges. Through the window, I saw my mother in the garden, planting flowers in soil that was legally mine. My brother carried boxes from his car to the porch. They had no choice but to return here after everything else had been seized. Now what? Jacob asked. Rebuild, I said simply. On truth this time. That night, I placed my journalism award on the mantel of my old bedroom, now repurposed as my home office. From the window, I watched my family share dinner below. Their voices were muted, but their expressions told the story: shame, regret, and the heavy weight of consequences. A week later, I sat across from my father at the kitchen table. I forgive you, I said quietly. But trust, that will take longer. He nodded, accepting this new reality. My mother reached for my hand, and this time I let her hold it. Noah and I had already talked through his role. He had sensed something was off but lacked the courage to dig deeper. Even my cousin Emma apologized for that ill-timed beach photo, unaware it clashed with my award ceremony. 17 years of secrecy, comfort chosen over honesty, now confronted with the consequences. It wasn't perfect revenge. Nothing ever is. But as I turned back to my laptop to begin my next story, I felt a certainty I hadn't felt in years. My work mattered. And no one would ever make me question my worth again.